Hello, my name is Mary Reinhardt, and I'm the President and CEO of First Makerspace. Today we're going to be discussing creating a culture of making and innovation. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because as we've created makerspaces at First Makerspace, we've helped hundreds of schools develop and nurture a maker mindset. Once you have the stuff, the next step is really to develop that maker mindset. Makers can be found anywhere that you look. They are in classrooms, communities, workplaces, and even grandparents are makers. But as you look closer, you'll find that developing that community of a maker mindset is harder than it appears. We're going to take a look at 6 key components to developing a community of a culture of making and innovation. The first one is values mapping, followed by defining your stakeholders and audience, fixed versus growth mindset, shaping the learning environment, curricular integration, and making the case. The first step to really determining your culture and innovation is really thinking, what does your community and local school already value? Here, if this activity is paired with a values mapping activity from MakerEd, which is a nonprofit dedicated to maker education. In this values mapping grid, what you're going to do is essentially take a look at all the different statements that you can find here. And you're going to pick the top 3 that you agree with the most. And then you're going to figure out and go across the grid, both numerical and using the letters M-A-K-E, and figure out what number and letter corresponds with it. So for example, if I identify that one of my top values is making helps young people develop good habits of mind, then I would write down A1. This is a great activity for you to both do for yourself and for you to have others do that are stakeholders. This is something that you can print off. The resources can be found on both MakerEd's website as well as DreamSeeDo. This is something that you can share with others as well. Once you've developed 3 of your top values, you can map these results. So if you, for example, try to figure out from here, where do most of your values lie? Are they in social justice and equity, workforce development, skill development, or learning? My personal values fell kind of split between social justice and equity and workforce development. This didn't surprise me at all. I've spent a lot of my career in workforce development when I was at the Indiana Department of Education, but I have a heart for social justice and equity. Where do your values lie? You may find that yours are split between all 4. I've seen educators that have mapped in different places. This is a great time to pause and do this activity. The next step, once you've done this values mapping activity, is to write a 1-sentence vision statement that incorporates all the themes from your chosen statement. You could do this with stakeholders and advisory board members from your makerspace. If you don't have that yet, you could do this on your own as a beginning step to building your makerspace. This statement should reflect the why, about why you care about making and maker-centered learning. You can also do this activity for your classroom if you have a classroom makerspace. What is your 1-sentence vision statement? This is something that you can do in order to guide your learning, and it shouldn't be just something that's passive. You should write it and create a poster, hang it above the door, and invite students to help you revise it at least once a year. The next thing we're going to take a look at is stakeholders and audience. Makerspaces are a social enterprise. We have a natural focus on people. And so engaging with a variety of different people and stakeholders will allow you to share what you do with the right types of people to expand your vision. And you want to expand that vision to help you get grant funding, volunteers, community partners, and more. Knowing what a stakeholder is and how to activate one is a really important part of building your maker community. This really great flyer from Digital Promise helps you also envision a culturally relevant maker program. This is so timely right now with some of the different things, especially with how important it is to be culturally sensitive, and to really look deeply at the curriculum we have. What hidden biases are in our curriculum, and how can we take a look at those and reshape what we're doing? So it's important to look outward, inward, and forward. I'm not going to go through all of this today, but this is a great handout that you can take a deeper look at in order to guide your maker program. This stakeholder mapping activity is a key element of figuring out who your stakeholders are. I've personally done this activity with my education director, and it was a really great activity to do. First of all, I didn't read the directions very well, so I'm going to clearly tell them to you here. The first step is to essentially build get a big piece of butcher block paper out and essentially make this chart for yourself. Opponents, messengers, fan club, and not a priority. Label all of those pieces and essentially get a big piece of paper and draw 4 squares. Just like this. The next step is when you print this activity out from Maker Education, you're going to get all kinds of different names of people. Teachers, grandparents, principals, local business owners. All of those people, you can cut them out, but my recommendation would be to write their names on Post-its. They're categories of people. And for your specific school or community organization, what you're going to do is you're going to put those categories in, you're going to categorize them. Are they messengers? Are they champions for you? Are they in your fan club? Great. Have you had little engagement with them, or are they actively a threat, trying to disentangle your maker program, or not a fan of your hands-on learning? There may be people out there like that. Your target audience is going to be somewhere between your opponents and your messengers, and you want to activate those individual people. The reason you're not going to pay much attention to the people who are not a priority is because the individuals at the bottom, just like with any new initiative, are those that aren't going to pay much attention at the beginning. You want to bring those on board that already are passionate about what you're doing and activate those people. The fan club, you also want to include them. You want to inform them, proportionate to how much they can help, but you don't want to spend all of your time advocating to just them. It's important that you are aware of these people, and just going through this exercise will allow you to figure out who your stakeholders are and how you can engage them in your makerspace and in educational community. The next component to consider is mindsets. There's a difference between fixed and growth mindset that you've probably heard of before. A fixed mindset essentially means that you're not open to growth, whereas a growth mindset means that you're willing to learn through failure. There's a really good book called Mindsets in the Classroom that I encourage you to take a look at. But one of the important things for growth mindset that you can use in the classroom is teaching perseverance through literature, and also learning how to fail, highlighting businesses that failed before they succeeded. For example, Colonel Sanders' famous chicken was rejected over 1,000 times before a restaurant accepted it. That's a great example of a business person taking a lot of criticism and turning it into something really successful. The next component is shaping the learning environment. The makerspace should be the most joyous place in the building. And as you can notice, with many makerspaces that you've may have walked in before, or STEM labs, or just hands-on learning environments in general, it's often a place that's loud and messy. How can you create an environment where everyone wants to be? There's a couple of tips here for success. Make it flexible. Use failure as feedback. Keep resources out and available for use. This one can be tough, particularly because a lot of educators want to lock things away so that they don't get stolen. And in this one in particular, there are some products from First Makerspace where, like the mobile maker storage cart that we've designs particularly so that young children can see the materials that are available for making. I encourage you to take a look at those on our website. Also, designate spaces for student projects. This is essential because as you're doing works in progress, there's going to be times where students have to pause and leave their project as it is. Where are they going to put their project? That's something to consider. And as you're shaping the learning environment, whether it's a classroom, a makerspace, a STEM lab, anywhere where you're doing hands-on learning, it's important to take into account what you're doing it for, what materials you need, and how you can create a space that feels safe and warm and welcoming to all students who will be in that space, including any students who have different needs. So what kind of makerspace do you have? There are several different types. Do you have an open makerspace? Is it meaning that you go to it at any time that you'd like? It's a drop-in type of class. You can go and work on any project that you're working on as an educator. Is it a special, meaning that there's a specific teacher in charge and you maybe rotate to that class once a week or for a week at a time? Or is it a cart? All different options for all different kinds of classrooms and buildings and schools. I would say probably the most popular kind that we see is either an open makerspace or makerspaces as a special. What you choose really depends on what your situation, budget, and school environment is. This is an example at Indian Creek Elementary in Lawrence Township of an open makerspace. They have large work tables for student use, and as you can see, lots of project storage and cubbies as well. And the nice thing about these tables is they push them together, they pull them apart, and they push them against the wall when they're not in use. My favorite part of this makerspace is that it's the front and center when you walk in the building, and it really is the highlight of the school. Building spaces to make and learn is something that you have to plan to do. No matter what kind of makerspace you're building, it's important that you create a plan that meets all of the needs of your learners. This is something that we do at First Makerspace. We consider all the needs, and when we do a consultation, we create a space plan, so an actual 3D design, but more than that, we listen to your needs and create a plan to fit those needs. So whether it be this year or several years down the road, it will be a space that grows with you. The next step is curricular integration. There's two ways you can start. Either you can start with the Indiana academic standards, or you can look for opportunities for collaboration. The next step is to really implement that project and then share your results. Curriculum in a makerspace is something that is ever evolving. We have our own curriculum here at First Makerspace that's meant to be a starting point, but many maker educators like to design their own lesson plans, and so as you continue along your journey, you will find that it's a lot of fun to design new things for each year that you have continued to evolve. Next is making the case. Now that you've really learned how to incorporate making in the classroom, you need to show it off to others. Don't be a best-kept secret in the back of the classroom or in the back of a building. Display student work, and invite stakeholders to participate in your makerspace, plan a maker or STEM night, and collect data about what you're doing for grants. Be something that other people and other parts of your community look up to. And once they catch on to what you're doing, they're going to want to be part of it, trust me. Some things that I implore you to consider is how does this space impact the learning environment and learning experience? And how does a makerspace support curricular integration? And how can you make the case to your community to support this makerspace? Let's continue to the discussion inside of Dream See Do. Thank you for listening to this presentation. This has been Mary Reinhardt from First Makerspace.